Don't you dare ask us to cancel again. We've had these concert tickets for months. My mother's voice, sharp and indignant, echoed tinily from my phone speaker, piercing the sterile quiet of my hospital room. I sat stunned, clutching the phone, my hands trembling uncontrollably. It was Christmas Eve at Phoenix Medical Center. Just me, my 2-year-old twins, Leo and Lily, playing quietly with soft blocks in the corner, and Nurse Davis, checking my vitals with practiced calm. A searing pain radiated through my abdomen, hot and relentless, like a knife twisting deep inside. Yet, the look of utter indifference on my mother's face during our video call somehow hurt far more. My name is Megan Carter. I'm 33, and for as long as I can recall, I've been the footnote in my own family's story. My parents needed childcare while I faced emergency surgery, but their concert plans were apparently non-negotiable. If you're finding yourself wondering how Megan navigates this unbelievable situation, make sure you're subscribed to Lifestories1 so you don't miss what happens next. The call ended, leaving a bitter silence in its wake. Emergency surgery, internal bleeding, a dangerous complication the doctors linked to the stress following my husband David's sudden death just 6 months ago, and my parents, Diana and Robert Carter, were more concerned about missing a major concert than the well-being of their only grandchildren, or potentially their daughter's life. My younger sister, Chloe, the golden child, could do no wrong. Meanwhile, I couldn't even secure backup from my own parents in a crisis. When I had finally desperately asked for their help after exhausting every other possibility, friends out of town for the holidays, sitters unavailable, my father's response had been swift and brutal. "You're becoming a real nuisance and burden, Megan. We're retired now. We deserve to enjoy our lives without your constant problems." The irony was suffocating. I'd been financially supporting their early retirement for 3 years, sending them $2,500 every single month, without fail, to cover their mortgage and expenses on their sprawling lakefront property. Even after David was killed by a drunk driver, leaving me a grieving widow with 2 toddlers, I kept sending the money. I did it out of a misplaced sense of duty, a naive belief that families should support each other. How utterly foolish I'd been. Tears pricked my eyes, falling silently onto the thin hospital blanket as Nurse Davis gently squeezed my shoulder. "My friend Sarah is a professional nanny," she offered softly, her kindness a stark contrast to my parents' callousness. "She specializes in working with children, even those who've experienced trauma. Let me call her for you." Leo and Lily, oblivious, continued their quiet play. They'd already lost their father. The thought of them losing me, too, if this surgery went wrong, was terrifying. But leaving them in the care of people who viewed them, and me, as inconvenient burdens? That was somehow worse. In that moment, clarity cut through the physical pain and crushing disappointment. "Yes, please," I whispered to Nurse Davis. "Please call her." With those words, the process began, cutting the toxic ties to the people who gave me life but never truly showed me love. Memories flooded back as I waited. My childhood, a landscape of overlooked achievements, while Chloe basked in the spotlight. My college graduation with honors, overshadowed by Chloe landing a role in a local TV commercial. My wedding to David, marred by their complaints about the venue's distance. Even the twins' birth prompted only one brief visit, filled with remarks about how fussy babies were. David had been my anchor through it all, understanding the sting of family disappointment all too well. "We'll build our own family, Meg," he'd promised, "one that knows how to love." And we had, creating a haven of warmth and laughter. Until that drunk driver shattered everything. Yet, even consumed by grief, I'd continued the payments, even increasing them when they vaguely mentioned inflation struggles. I wanted to be better than them, to embody the loyalty they preached but never practiced. Here I was, potentially bleeding to death, and they couldn't miss one concert. Nurse Davis returned quickly. "Sarah's on her way. She'll be here within the hour. She's wonderful, truly." Worry gnawed at me. How much will this cost? Medical bills were already mounting. David's insurance had limitations. Don't worry about that now, Nurse Davis soothed. Let's focus on you. But I was worried. Then I thought about the $2,500 transfer scheduled for next week. Money earmarked for my parents. Money that could now pay for Sarah, for essential childcare. A tiny flame flickered inside me. Self-preservation, long dormant, finally igniting. Sarah arrived, radiating warmth and competence, instantly putting the twins at ease. As the hospital staff prepped me, wheeling the gurney towards the daunting doors of the operating room, I asked Nurse Davis for my phone one last time. With trembling fingers, I sent 2 crucial messages. The first, to my bank, canceling the automatic monthly transfer to Diana and Robert Carter, effective immediately. The second, a text message to my parents, simple, direct. I will no longer be providing financial support. My children and I deserve better than being your afterthoughts. Do not contact me again. As they pushed me through the doors, beneath the layers of pain and fear, I felt something utterly unexpected, something profoundly liberating, freedom. The surgery was a success, stopping the internal bleeding, but it left me profoundly weak. I spent the next 5 days drifting in and out of a painkiller-induced haze in the recovery wing. I was deeply grateful for Sarah, the nanny Nurse Davis had found. She was a true blessing, staying with Leo and Lily in my hospital room during the day, engaging them with quiet games and stories, and taking them back to my small apartment each night, ensuring their routine remained as stable as possible under the circumstances. During a moment of clearer consciousness, I glanced at my phone resting on the bedside table. The screen was blinking insistently. 27 missed calls, dozens of text messages. All from my parents, Diana and Robert, and my sister Chloe. I braced myself and opened the texts. The messages from my parents followed a sickeningly predictable arc. Initial confusion. Did your transfer not go through? Escalating quickly to anger. How dare you cut us off without warning? The mortgage is due. And finally, dissolving into desperate, entitled pleas. You can't do this to us. We rely on that money. Not a single message asked how my surgery went. Not one inquired about the twins' well-being. It was all about the money. The final text from my father was particularly galling. You can't just cut us off like this. We've planned a cruise next month. The tickets are non-refundable. My sister Chloe's messages, however, struck a different chord. Meg, Mom and Dad just told me you were having some minor procedure. What's going on? Why are they completely freaking out about money? Call me. A sudden realization hit me. My parents hadn't just refused to help. They had actively lied to Chloe about the severity of my condition, likely painting me as dramatic or demanding to justify their decision to prioritize a concert over their critically ill daughter and grandchildren. Still groggy, feeling a mix of anger and weariness, I decided Chloe deserved the truth. I painstakingly texted her the full story. The emergency nature of the surgery, the internal bleeding, Mom and Dad's refusal to cancel their plans, their subsequent financial panic. Her response was almost immediate. Oh my God, Megan! I had no idea! They told me you were just being dramatic about a routine checkup. I thought it was weird they wouldn't postpone the concert, but they made it sound like you were fine. I would have watched Leo and Lily in a heartbeat if I'd known it was serious. I'm so sorry. I believed her. Chloe wasn't inherently cruel. She'd simply been marinated her whole life in an environment where her needs and wants were paramount, where our parents skillfully deflected any inconvenience onto me. Perhaps this ugly revelation would finally open her eyes to their true nature. By the time I was discharged, weak but determined, several decisions had crystallized. First, I officially hired Sarah part-time to help with the twins during my extended recovery period. Second, I contacted a lawyer specializing in estate planning. I needed a will immediately, designating a trusted college friend as guardian for Leo and Lily should anything happen to me. My parents would never get custody. Third, I blocked my parents' numbers on my phone. No more calls, no more manipulative texts. I allowed Chloe limited contact, deciding to assess her sincerity and actions over time. The financial relief was immediate and substantial. That $1,500 monthly drain represented nearly a third of my income as a freelance graphic designer. Without that burden, I could afford Sarah's invaluable help, cover my own rising medical bills, and maybe, just maybe, start rebuilding the emergency fund David's death and my parents' demands had completely depleted. That first night back in my own bed, listening to the soft breathing of Leo and Lily asleep in their room across the hall, I felt a confusing swirl of emotions. There was guilt, that deeply ingrained, conditioned feeling that I was somehow wrong for prioritizing myself and my children. There was fear, the daunting reality of managing a difficult recovery while solely responsible for two active toddlers. But beneath it all, something new and unfamiliar was taking root. A quiet, steady sense of self-respect. My phone pinged softly with a text from Chloe. Just had a huge fight with Mom and Dad about how they treated you. It was awful. I'm staying at a hotel tonight. Can we talk tomorrow? Maybe, just maybe, I wasn't completely alone in this after all. 2 weeks post-surgery, life settled into a new, fragile rhythm. Strength returned slowly. The incision site still sent sharp warnings if I moved too quickly, but each day felt like a small victory. Sarah was my lifeline, arriving each morning with a cheerful smile, expertly managing Leo and Lily while I eased back into remote work. My graphic design clients, thankfully, were understanding, granting me the flexibility I desperately needed. Being home, even while working, felt crucial. Chloe became a regular visitor, often arriving with containers of healthy, home-cooked food, or simply spending an afternoon playing with the twins, giving me a much-needed break. Our conversation started cautiously, tiptoeing around the family landmines, but gradually she began to open up, sharing her own dawning realizations about our parents. They always framed it like you were the one choosing to be distant, she admitted one evening, her voice quiet as we watched Leo meticulously stack blocks only for Lily to gleefully knock them down. Like you were difficult or preferred being alone. I never realized, I never saw how much they were actively pushing you away, making it impossible for you to stay close. A different Chloe was emerging, one less gilded, more aware, peeking out from beneath the layers of parental conditioning. While deep-seated trust wouldn't rebuild overnight, I found myself appreciating her tentative efforts, her willingness to see things from my perspective. Then came the knock I'd been subconsciously bracing for. Peeking through the peephole confirmed my fears. Diana and Robert Carter stood in the hallway outside my apartment door. My mother clutched her expensive-looking designer purse, fiddling nervously with the strap. My father stood rigidly beside her, arms crossed, that familiar impatient frown etched onto his face. My heart hammered against my ribs. Take a breath, Megan. You are in control now. I hesitated for only a second before opening the door, just a crack, keeping the security chain engaged. What do you want? I asked, pleased that my voice sounded far steadier than I felt. Megan, darling, we've been so worried, my mother gushed, deploying her signature sugary tone that instantly set my teeth on edge. You haven't been answering our calls. We just needed to make sure you and the precious twins were all right. We're fine, I replied flatly, offering no further information, no invitation to enter. Now if that's all, it's not all, my father interrupted brusquely, putting his hand flat against the door as if contemplating pushing it open. We need to discuss this ridiculous financial situation you've created. The bank called about the mortgage payment. We had to dip into our cruise savings to cover it this month. The sheer, unadulterated audacity stole my breath for a moment. No questions about my recovery from major surgery, no expressed concern for their grandchildren playing just feet away, just immediate demands for money, cloaked in manufactured worry. I told you, I stated clearly, meeting my father's glare through the crack in the door. I am cutting financial ties. I meant it. But, sweetie, my mother pleaded, her voice climbing an octave into practiced distress, we've come to depend on that money. Your father and I adjusted our entire lifestyle based on your commitment to help us. My commitment? I echoed, disbelief sharpening my tone. I've been sending you thousands of dollars out of guilt and a misplaced sense of obligation for years, while you couldn't be bothered to watch your own grandchildren during my emergency surgery because you had concert tickets." My father's face darkened. "That's not fair, Megan. We had plans, non-refundable plans." "Plans," I repeated, the anger I'd been suppressing finally rising, hot and clean. "Plans more important than your grandchildren's safety? More important than my life? Do you have any idea what the doctors told me before I went into that OR? There was a real chance I might not survive. Did either of you even bother to ask how the surgery went?" Their silence screamed the answer. "We made one mistake," my mother whispered dramatically, tears welling on cue. "Are you really going to punish us like this forever?" "This isn't punishment, Mom," I said, a strange calm descending as I found my footing on this new ground of self-assertion. "This is a consequence. I have spent my entire life seeking your approval, your support, something. And in my absolute moment of greatest need, you chose a concert. You made your priorities crystal clear." "We're your parents," my father interjected, his voice shifting into a tone of command, demanding the respect he clearly felt entitled to. "And I'm a parent too," I countered fiercely. "And I swear I would never treat Leo and Emily the way you've treated me. Never." Right on cue, Lily toddled into view behind me, clutching her favorite stuffed giraffe. My mother instantly switched tactics, her face transforming into a mask of doting grandmotherhood. "Oh, there's my precious grandbaby," she cooed, bending down slightly. "Look, sweetie, Grandma brought presents." Lily, unfamiliar and wary of these relative strangers radiating tension, instinctively backed away, pressing against my leg and looking up at me with wide, uncertain eyes. That settled it. "I think you should leave," I said quietly but firmly. "When I'm ready to talk, if I'm ever ready, I will reach out to you." "But the money!" my father started again, desperation creeping back into his voice. "Is no longer your concern," I finished, gently but decisively closing the door, engaging the deadbolt with a satisfying click. The silence that followed felt powerful. The next morning, my parents escalated. They returned, but this time, they brought reinforcements. My Aunt Carol, my mother's sister, a woman who had always skillfully positioned herself as the neutral family peacemaker, smoothing over conflicts usually at my expense. "Megan, honey, let's just be reasonable." Aunt Carol's voice came pleadingly through the closed and locked door. I hadn't even bothered with the peephole this time. "Your parents are really struggling without your help. Can't we just talk this through?" "They managed their finances perfectly well for decades before I started helping them, Aunt Carol," I replied clearly through the solid wood. "They chose early retirement, knowing their savings weren't really adequate for the lifestyle they wanted." My mother's tearful voice broke in. "We made those decisions because you promised you'd always help us, Megan. We've had to cancel our cruise. We might lose the house now because of you." Their attempts at manipulation felt so transparent, almost clumsy, now that I had stepped out of the thick fog of guilt they had expertly cultivated around me for years. When had I ever promised lifetime financial support? I'd offered temporary help when they first retired, a gesture of goodwill that they had twisted and inflated over time into an unbreakable, expected, permanent entitlement. "Mom, Dad, Aunt Carol," I stated firmly, my voice devoid of emotion, "I am recovering from major surgery. I'm caring for 2 toddlers as a single parent. This conversation is over." I turned and walked away from the door, resolutely ignoring the continued knocking and muffled pleading that followed. Later that day, the next phase of their campaign launched. My father sent a group email addressed to the entire extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, near and far. It was a masterpiece of selective truth and victimhood, detailing how I, their supposedly beloved daughter, had cruelly and inexplicably abandoned them in their time of need after they had sacrificed everything for me. The email conveniently, almost comically, omitted any mention of their refusal to help with Leo and Lily during my life-threatening emergency surgery. Instead, it painted me as a cold, ungrateful child who had suddenly, capriciously cut them off without reason or warning. What my father hadn't anticipated, in his bubble of self-righteousness, was the immediate backlash. My cousin Mark, who lived near my parents and apparently had a clearer view of their sacrifices, hit reply all. Uncle Robert, didn't you just buy a brand new bass boat last month? And Aunt Diana, wasn't that a rather large new diamond tennis bracelet you were showing off at Thanksgiving? Other family members quickly chimed in, questioning the narrative. Several messaged me privately, asking for my side of the story, expressing concern. Even Aunt Carol called me directly later that afternoon, her tone shifting dramatically after apparently learning the truth elsewhere. Megan, I had no idea about the surgery being an emergency, she admitted sheepishly. Diana and Robert told me you were just being overly dramatic about some routine procedure and were using it as an excuse to punish them financially. I'm so sorry I tried to pressure you. Meanwhile, Chloe, having witnessed our parents' behavior firsthand during her hotel stay and subsequent conversations, had fully and unequivocally taken my side. She helped me craft a single, factual, unemotional response to the exploding family email thread. Subject: clarification. Body: I recently underwent emergency surgery with a significant risk of complications. My parents refused my request to watch my children during this critical time because they had pre-existing concert tickets. I am now focusing on my recovery and caring for my twins without enduring additional stress or financial burden. Thank you to those who have reached out with genuine concern. The wave of support that followed was overwhelming and deeply moving. Cousin Mark's wife started dropping off delicious home-cooked meals twice a week. A second cousin I barely knew, a certified teacher, offered her services as a part-time babysitter, completely free of charge, just to help out. Chloe began spending most weekends at my apartment, truly getting to know her niece and nephew while giving me invaluable respite and adult conversation. Perhaps most surprisingly, Nurse Davis from the hospital, who had checked in periodically via text, connected me with a local support group specifically for young widowed parents. Their first meeting was held via Zoom, allowing me to participate from my living room couch. Sharing my story, listening to others who had walked a similar path, for the first time since David died, I felt profoundly, truly understood. My parents' financial situation, as I began to piece together from snippets Chloe shared, was deteriorating rapidly. They had indeed been living far beyond their means for years, treating my monthly $2,500 contribution not as help, but as a baseline income supplement funding their travels, hobbies, and luxury purchases. Chloe discovered, to her shock, after they reluctantly allowed her to review some documents, that they had taken out a hefty second mortgage on their house a year prior, specifically to buy Robert's beloved boat, blithely assuming I would continue subsidizing their primary mortgage indefinitely. They've been lying to everyone, Megan, Chloe told me, clearly appalled, including themselves. They're not destitute, they're just incredibly overspent and irresponsible. They'd probably be fine if they just sold the boat and that ridiculous vacation timeshare. Their increasingly desperate voicemails and texts, now unblocked solely for Chloe to monitor, continued. But with each passing day, their power over me weakened. I was busy building something new, something real, from the ashes of their betrayal, a genuine support network grounded in mutual care, respect, and understanding, not guilt or obligation. Roughly 1 month after my surgery, the inevitable financial hammer fell on my parents. Jessica called me, her voice a mixture of exasperation and reluctant concern. They got a foreclosure notice, Megan. The bank sent it certified mail. They're in complete panic mode, 60 days to catch up on all the missed payments, or they lose the house. What happened to their retirement funds? I asked, bouncing Lily gently on my knee while Leo napped nearby. Mostly gone, Jessica sighed. Apparently, they spent a big chunk on the boat. Then Dad invested almost all the rest in some can't-miss scheme one of his golf buddies recommended. They lost nearly everything. I'm not saying you should help them, Megan, she added quickly. I thought you should know. That same evening, my phone lit up with desperate texts from both Diana and Robert. All pretense of concern for my well-being was gone, replaced by raw, unfiltered begging for money. My mother's message was particularly revealing. "We never thought you'd actually cut us off. We just assumed you were angry and would start sending money again after a week or two once you cooled down." Their absolute assumption that my boundaries weren't real, that my no didn't actually mean no, infuriated me more than almost anything else. All those years of prioritizing their needs, tolerating their disrespect, their dismissiveness, they had never truly respected me or my decisions at all. Meanwhile, my own life was quietly transforming. The support group became a vital lifeline. Through it, I met Rachel, a sharp, empathetic real estate agent whose husband had died of cancer 2 years prior, leaving her with a young son. She listened to my frustrations about my cramped, overpriced apartment and helped me explore options I hadn't considered feasible. Selling the apartment, using the equity, moving to a more affordable, family-friendly neighborhood with better schools and childcare options, it suddenly seemed possible. Inspired by the memorial website I'd painstakingly created for David, I'd also started a small side business designing similar sites for others. Several members of my support group commissioned me, word spread, and inquiries started coming in steadily. For the first time since becoming a widow, I felt a flicker of professional purpose, beyond just surviving client deadlines. The contrast between my tentative growth and my parents' accelerating collapse was stark. It became even starker when they showed up at my apartment door again, unannounced, this time armed not with guilt trips, but with a detailed spreadsheet of their debts. "We need $14,000, Megan," my father stated, his usual authoritative tone now thin and strained with desperation. "That's what it will take to catch up on the mortgage and stop the foreclosure." This time, I invited them in. Not out of obligation, but out of a detached curiosity to hear their perspective now that real consequences were staring them in the face. I gestured for them to sit at my small dining table. "What about selling the boat?" I asked calmly. "We'd take too much of a loss," my father protested immediately. "And the timeshare?" "We've tried. The market's terrible," my mother added quickly. "Besides, those are our retirement luxuries." I almost laughed aloud at the sheer absurdity. "Luxuries you clearly can't afford." "We could afford them with your help," my father countered, his tone hardening again, a flash of the old entitlement returning. "It's the least you could do after everything we've done for you." "And what exactly have you done for me, Dad?" I asked quietly, the question hanging heavy in the air between us. Just then, as if sensing the tension, Leo and Lily toddled into the room from their nap, Leo clutching his favorite red truck, Lily babbling happily. My parents' expressions instantly softened, transforming into masks of doting grandparents. "Oh, there are our precious babies!" my mother cooed, reaching out for Lily, who promptly hid behind my legs. "They don't know you," I stated simply, factually. "You've seen them maybe 3 times in their entire lives. You chose not to be involved." "That's not fair," my father protested weakly. "We're busy people." "Too busy for your only grandchildren," I observed coolly. "Too busy to help your daughter when she was facing emergency surgery, but apparently not too busy to show up and ask for $14,000. I think that says everything anyone needs to know about your priorities." My mother's face crumpled. Whether from genuine emotion or practiced manipulation, I honestly couldn't tell anymore. "Without your help, we'll lose everything," she whispered. "I lost my husband," I replied, my voice steady and clear. "My children lost their father. We survived. You'll survive too." 3 months later, the inevitable happened. Diana and Robert Carter were forced to sell their beloved lakefront house to avoid foreclosure. Jessica kept me sporadically updated. They found a modest condo in a less desirable area. A significant downgrade. Robert reluctantly sold his boat at a steep loss. The timeshare eventually sold for pennies on the dollar. "They're actually telling everyone you're the reason they're in this mess," Jessica informed me during one visit, shaking her head. blaming you for their financial problems. It's bizarre. They claim you abandoned them after promising lifelong support. Let them talk, I replied, surprised by my own lack of reaction. The opinions of people who had treated me so poorly no longer held power. The truth had a way of surfacing, and my extended family, for the most part, now saw it clearly. Even my father's sister had called me to offer support after learning the full story. My own situation continued to improve. Rachel helped me find and purchase a charming 3-bedroom house in a quiet, family-friendly neighborhood. The mortgage was less than my old rent. Leo and Lily had a backyard. My memorial website business flourished, allowing me to be more selective with graphic design work. Olivia/Sarah still helped 3 days a week, but my schedule felt more manageable, more joyful. Neighbors welcomed us warmly. The support group remained a vital connection. Jessica was now truly a sister. I had lost a husband and severed ties with my parents, yet paradoxically, I felt less alone than ever. 6 months after the surgery, a year after David's death, a handwritten letter arrived from my mother. Curiosity battled with apprehension, but I opened it. Inside was something I'd never received from her, what seemed like a genuine, unqualified apology. "Watching you build a life without our help has forced me to confront some painful truths," she wrote. "I was jealous of your independence. I resented that you didn't seem to need me. When you asked us to care for the twins during your surgery, you were reaching out, and we failed you completely. I'm deeply sorry." The letter detailed their restructured finances, my father's part-time job, their modest living. It didn't ask for money or forgiveness, just acknowledgement. Jessica confirmed they'd been in therapy for months, prompted by her insistence and my father's recent heart scare. High blood pressure, but it shook him. "I think facing mortality has humbled him," she'd said. I needed time. Was it real change or just a new strategy? Looking at old photos, I saw the patterns clearly now. The performance of parenthood. A year after my surgery, I agreed to meet them at a neutral cafe. They looked different, smaller, humbler. My father cried, admitting his failures. My mother spoke of therapy's impact. I shared photos of the twins, talked about our new life. They listened. As we parted, my father asked, hesitantly, about seeing the twins someday. "That depends entirely on your actions, not your words," I replied calmly. "If you're genuinely committed to change, we can start with short, supervised visits. But understand, my children will only have relationships with people who respect their mother." Walking away, I felt neither obligation nor resentment. Just the quiet strength of a woman who knew her worth, had built her boundaries, and would protect her peace. Whether they had truly changed remained uncertain, but I undoubtedly had. Megan Carter's story is a powerful testament to the strength found in setting boundaries and choosing self-preservation, even when it means confronting the very people who were supposed to love and protect you most. From the depths of betrayal and physical crisis in a lonely hospital room, she embarked on a difficult journey, not just of recovery, but of reclaiming her life and her voice. By cutting financial ties with her entitled parents, Diana and Robert, and refusing to enable their irresponsible behavior any longer, Megan faced down years of ingrained guilt and manipulation. She learned that true family isn't always defined by blood, but by mutual respect, support, and unconditional love. Qualities she found in her steadfast friend and nanny Sarah, her evolving relationship with her sister Chloe, the kindness of Nurse Davis, her compassionate cousin Mark, and the understanding community within her widow support group. Her parents' downfall, losing their home and luxuries, wasn't her fault. It was the direct consequence of their own choices, their arrogance, and their refusal to live within their means. Megan's journey teaches us invaluable lessons. Recognizing and rejecting toxic family dynamics is crucial for mental and emotional well-being. Setting firm boundaries, though painful, is an act of self-love and respect. Financial independence can be a powerful tool for breaking free from unhealthy dependencies, and building a chosen family, a network of genuine support, can provide the strength needed to navigate life's toughest challenges, while Megan eventually opened the door to potential cautious reconciliation with her seemingly changed parents. She did so from a place of power, dictating the terms based on their actions, not empty words. Her transformation from an overlooked daughter, desperate for approval, into a resilient, self-assured mother, fiercely protecting her children and her peace, is truly inspiring. Thank you for watching Megan's powerful story unfold here on Life Stories. If her journey resonated with you, please show your support by hitting the like button and subscribing to our channel for more stories about resilience, healing, and the courage it takes to rewrite your own narrative. Remember, you have the right to protect your peace and choose relationships that uplift and respect you. Until next time, take care.